Well, hello everyone. We are just about to the end of the second week, and so far, I think you're all doing a really good job. The first couple of weeks are always going to be kind of trying to figure things out, so you haven't done anything wrong or unnecessary at this point, and we can get everyone going the right direction by just helping and making some clarifications. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is don't get too worried about, getting points counted off or whatever, because I will let you redo things you need to do, and I'll explain and we'll give you help, and we'll, work to find a way to get everybody on the right page and to make things make sense for everybody. So I'm just going to go over some things, mainly talk about the writing workshop since we're starting those next week. And also with that, that'll be our first time to meet. So, we'll be figuring things out with that too. So here again, don't worry, if you don't do everything what you think may be completely right the first time. So here we are in weeks 1 and 2. Most of you have done the first posting. If you haven't done that, try to do that as soon as you can. I appreciate the questions. You guys have asked some good questions. I hope I've answered them. If I haven't, I will, keep working on adding stuff and adding information that will help you with questions you still may have. Everybody's posted on most everybody's posted on the reading, and seemed like you enjoyed it. I'm glad you did. One quick thing about that reading is a lot of you talk about writing being fun, and it's certainly not a bad thing for any kind of learning to be fun, but one of the main focuses I think on from the article is the idea that when we think of ourselves as writers, then we will start acting more like writers, and we will make the decisions that writers make. So that's one thing I really want you guys to think about and focus on, because writing can be fun and we can do fun activities, but a lot of writing that we do takes a lot of work. It's not necessarily fun, but it's a task that we have to do. It can be rewarding, but it also can be very challenging. And so making those decisions are things that you want to practice and think about. And then that leads into the article that you were to read for the third required posting, the one by Sandra Giles. And I ask you to write your own letter for some paper that you had written. And let me open this real quick. And this is reflective writing. And reflective writing is very hard, and we will work on it throughout the semester. So this first time around, it's going to be understandable that you are going to not do so great on it. So I think I mentioned in my intro video to you guys, it's like learning, to play tennis. You learn and you read some stuff, and then you go out there and you try to play, and you're just not very good, and you need more practice. So, this is a similar kind of thing here. So if you go to the sample letter, whenever you are working on any kind of document that you have to write, you have to communicate information, you always have to think about the audience and the purpose. The problem is most of what you probably have been told to do in your experience in classes where you've been told to write something is the teacher would make most of these decisions for you and say, do this, do this, do this, do this. So you really weren't making a lot of decisions. So you really haven't practiced this. Now, one thing I've seen that reflects that in what you guys have been posting, this sample here, when Giles did this, she was doing it in a face-to-face situation. And the people in her group wrote the letter, and they attached the letter, because you see down here, following is a sample letter that shows blah blah blah. The letter was put on top of the actual paper that the writer was talking about. So when you see in the actual letter, and they say this essay is about blah blah blah, well, in Giles's case, the person reading this letter actually had the essay. In our case, unless you attach the letter when you in the discussion forum, when you post, I'm sorry, not the letter. Unless you attach the paper you're talking about when you go to post your letter in the discussion forum, unless you give us the paper, those of us that's reading, we're not going to know what you're talking about when you say this essay. So every time you write something, you put information down, you've got to think through things that way. And that's a decision that writers make. That's one of the things. What do I need to do to make the things I'm saying make sense to the reader? So a lot of you are starting your letters this way. We as readers need to know more about your paper, unless you attach it, because we don't have the paper. And some of you talked about your paper and gave some context, and that was good, but a lot of you didn't. Now, when you look at this letter, though, there's 3 paragraphs here. I noticed on the posts that have been submitted so far, many of you just have 1 paragraph, and in it you're kind of doing what was done in the first paragraph here. In the first paragraph, this writer is talking about the content, giving some context as to what the paper was about, where what they were writing the paper for, what it was about. Now, when you do reflection, that's not what we're focusing on here. Here we want you to reflect on what you were doing when you wrote about the content. So you're going to want to think about not the content, but the process of what you did when you wrote. And that's something you probably haven't done a lot of either, because here again, a lot of times when you've been assigned writing, you've probably been told by the teacher how to do those parts as well. Let me give you an example of what I'm meaning when I say don't talk about the content, but talk about the process. Let's say if you were going to explain to me how you built a house, and if you just told me I used oak boards, and I used red paint, and I used aluminum pipes, and you just told me that those are the things, that's how you built the house. Well, I've got a lot of stuff, I've got a lot of content, but I don't know what to do with the content. Because when you go to build a house, you take all those things and then you have to go through the process of putting them all together in some way. So same thing when you're writing. You've got a lot of content, you've got the ideas, you've got the material, you've got the information, but then you have to decide how you're going to put it all together. That's what the reflection is, talking about how you went through the process. And then you can see in the second paragraph here, that's what this writer was talking more about. And in the last paragraph, they talked about feedback that they got. Now, I pulled up a couple of examples to show you a little bit more. This is a really good article about choices that writers make. And this is what I want you to think more and more about, because like I said, you probably haven't done much of that. Or even if you've done it, because you've probably done some of this and you just haven't thought about it, because you're good students and you're good thinkers, and you figure out how to do things. But you can see down here, these are some of the decisions, some of the choices. So choice of audience and purpose, form, format, organization, opening, closing, tone, voice, details, specific words. And when you read the whole article, this is a teacher talking about this same idea with his students, and he says, sadly, when I present these ideas to my students and ask who gets to make these choices, the answers are nearly all the same. Who gets to choose the topic? The teacher. Who chooses the purpose? The teacher. And that's what I was saying to you guys, that you really haven't done a lot of this, because when you're given assignments, you're told all of this stuff. I have a Google Doc here where I've got the link to that article, but then I also put down here some other things you can talk about when you're doing this reflective writing. Did you have to add a paragraph? Did you have to add a section? How many sections did you decide on? Did you have to delete a paragraph? Heaven forbid you ever delete anything, right? You just want to reach whatever the required amount of pages or words or whatever that here again is decided for you. But that's a big decision that writers make whenever they are putting together something. More often than not, there may be things you need to take out. Did you need to use headings? We put in headings because they're going to help the reader. Did you find that you needed to clarify a point or a concept or a section or a main idea? Or did you leave out an idea and you needed to put that in? Or did you have ideas that didn't go together and you needed to figure out what to do with that? Did you reorganize some of the content? It's probably something you haven't practiced a lot of. Did you find you had to create new sections because of gaps in what you needed to put in to help the reader? Did you summarize sections? One of the things that people do a lot when you're writing the first drafts of things is you put in a lot of information that makes sense to you, but it doesn't make sense to the reader. So one of the moves you have to make is, and the decisions, is how to condense that to help the reader so that the reader can understand it better. And then quotes. You're taught to put quotes in, and you're taught how to, where to put quotations, how to do the parenthetical documentation and all that, but you're not really taught how to use quotes to help the reader or not help the reader. Because if you just quote, and that happens a lot with the kind of writing you tend to be assigned for school, is okay, you're gonna have so many quotes, or quote from this, or whatever, blah blah blah. But really, you don't want to quote. You want to quote very rarely, because when you quote, the reader has to work harder to figure out why the quote's there, what does it mean, how does it connect to what you're saying, what are you saying about the quote. So you're not really helping the reader when you just put in a bunch of quotes. So anyway, we'll talk more about that. I'm trying not to go on too long about this. But anyway, this is the kind of thinking for the reflective writing. Now, what I would encourage you to do, and because a lot of you, I didn't give you full credit on what you had posted so far, so I would encourage you to go back and repost and do that again, because when we do the writing workshops, that is the last thing you were supposed to look at, the writing workshops, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how that'll work. When we have the writing workshops, we're going to talk about what you did with your letter that you wrote for the third required posting. Now, if you didn't write but one paragraph and you just talked, a couple of sentences about the topic of your paper, you're really not going to have feedback to give. So you need to go back and do that so that you have some feedback, so that the people in your group can talk about and give you some good feedback, because that's what I'm going to be giving you credit for in the writing workshop, is that you have met with your group, you've done you've looked at all the writing that the people in your group have done, you've given them feedback, and you've talked about that. So let me talk about how the kind of the logistics of the writing workshop. So the first thing you need to do is sign up for a group if you haven't done that yet. Looks like some of you have. There's still slots. Now what I will do is we'll have the meetings in Zoom. You need to pick someone in your group that can set up the Zoom meetings, or you can take turns doing that, however you want to do that. Now this first week, if you need help with that, just let me know, because what you will need to do is I'll need someone in your group to send me an email letting me know, inviting me to the Zoom group. So you set up the Zoom meeting, then you invite all the people in your group, and then you invite me as well. If you need help with that and you need me to set up the Zoom meeting for the first week, send me an email. Have one person in your group send me an email. Now, after the first week, I'll expect all of the groups to be setting up the meetings, and it really works better. It's better for you guys, and it keeps up with things. Things just work better. Everybody knows what's going on more. And then there is the schedule. So whatever group you signed up for, then you can see next week on the 6th, which should be Tuesday. And here are the times. And we only meet for 30 minutes. And that's why you have to be ready when you come to the meeting. So here's the process of what you're supposed to be doing. The people in your group, and there's probably going to be 4 in the group, you're going to review what they posted in the discussion forum for the third posting for the week, the letter that I was just talking about, the letter where you talk about your paper. And then you have to give each other feedback. Now, how you do this is up to you. You decide this based on what you want to do in your group. One of the options, I added here a sample workshop video. You can click on this. This is a group from the spring semester, and they chose to do their workshops and just have it in Zoom and videotape themselves when they talked about their feedback. And they did a really, really good job. Now, if you do that, you don't have to write down all of your feedback, because when you do the feedback, you do have to turn it in. You have to show me that you've done the feedback. So let me show you that. In the discussion forum, let's see. So on weeks 3 and 4, the first required posting is where you would, if you decide to write your responses, you would give feedback to all of the people in your group, and you would turn that in so that you can get credit for that. Now, if you do the video, you can turn that in and you don't have to write down all the feedback that you gave. But now it's up to you which format you pick. So the video is one option. Some students like to do it. They would write down their feedback and then just email it to each other. And they could do their group meeting that way. Some people did it in the discussion forum. You can do that if you want to. So they would go like here in this posting, the first posting. Let's see. Wait. No, I'm sorry. So you would go to the third posting. You would go to where they actually wrote their letter. So if you open up the third posting, so let's say I'm in Faith's group. So I could open up her letter that she wrote. And then I could post my feedback here. So that's an option. You can do it that way. And then if you do it that way, then you would post that to let me know that that's what you did. And then I was trying to think if there was some groups, you can meet face to face in person if you want to. I mean, this is an online class, but if you guys, you may still be on campus and want to do that. It's pretty flexible, because what I want you to do is in your writing group, I want you to do what's comfortable. The format of how you do it is not as important to me as making sure that you practice the feedback, because that's the important thing we're working on here. That will help you as a writer. You will gather more tools that will help you learn to be a better writer, and it will also give you practice giving feedback, so that when you work with other writers, you will have ideas for how to do that. So, and my students have enjoyed it quite a bit. I think you really will find it's enjoyable, and you will get a lot out of that. Okay, so that's the first part, and that's the way you get credit for the first part. Because when you look in weeks 3 and 4, see right here, post responses for writing workshop. So you would go to the discussion forum, and then when you get to the first required posting here, you would post the notes you took on what feedback. So I would put Faith, and then I would write down what feedback I gave her, and then the second person in my group, so you could write it down and post it. If you post actually where they posted their letter, you can just post here and let me know that you did that, and then I'll know to go there and look. If you do a video, you can just turn in the video. You don't have to do the written responses. So those are the main ways to do it. I don't know, you may think of you may come up with some more creative ideas, so just let me know. Now the second part is when we meet. So you look back on the schedule, weeks 3 and 4. Let me find it here. It says, don't forget to attend the writing workshop meeting scheduled for your group with Dr. G. And so that's when you guys will meet with me in Zoom. And when you look on the discussion forum, that's what this first writing workshop meetings with me, that's what this is all about. So when I meet with the groups next week, if you come to the meeting and you've done your reviewing, and then you answer the questions and talk about that in the meeting, then you will get your points it's 10 points for each meeting. You'll get your points. So this will be a running total when you get your points. So each week that we meet, you will get 10 points. So that's a lot. I want to cut this off because this kind of is already getting long. But anyway, hopefully that helps. Keep posting your questions. Remember, if you have questions, post them whatever the first posting is for the week. So if you still have questions for week 1, post them here. When we get to weeks 3 and 4, post your questions here. You can post as many times as you want. And then I'll keep working on answering those questions. And then when we meet, we can go over other, individual things that you may still be unclear about. So, but it's all going to work out, and it's all going to be good. And I appreciate you guys working hard and keeping track of all the points. And once we get going, it'll be good. You'll enjoy it and find. I think you'll feel really good about the progress you make over the course of the semester. So I'm going to stop there because this has already gone long. So thanks for listening.